Once you're in game, you're going to hit your Y key by default, and it will load Zeus. Keep in mind when you're playing as Zeus on a multiplayer server with lots of clients, or just clients in general, there will be a significant lag loading in and out of Zeus. There's nothing you can do about this. It's just Arma. So once you're in Zeus, this is what your view should look like. We're going to go over modules in this first section. We're going to be covering pretty much all of these. Some of these I will skip, so keep that in mind. If you want further information on that, let me know in the comments, and I'll make a separate video about them if I know anything about them. Some of them, in my opinion, shouldn't even be there, but moving on. So we're going to first start with ACE AI. So we have Defend Area, Garrison Group, Paradrop Group, Search Area, Search Nearby Buildings, Suppressive Fire, Toggle NVGs, and Ungarrison Group. Now, I'm not going to show how each of these works, but I will give you a general look, I suppose. So Defend Area, you would drop it on the unit, and then you would enter the radius of where you want them to defend. And simple enough, they will defend. Garrison Group is an instant option if you hit teleport, yes. Otherwise, they will go to the buildings and garrison. And as you can see, there's various settings you can select there. So, Paradrop Cargo, I said group earlier. If you have an aircraft vehicle selected like it said there, you can have it Paradrop Cargo. Search Area is similar to the Defend Area. You can have them search the area. Same with Search Nearby Building. The Suppressive Fire module, once you drop it on a unit, it will ask you to select an area. Now, you might not be able to hear my desktop, but you can clearly tell that they are firing, providing suppressive fire. Something to keep in mind is when in an Arma server, specifically at the time of this recording, a Rough Rider server, sometimes the modules in Zeus won't work. And that has nothing to do with the Rough Rider server, that's just Arma. So keep that in mind. Sometimes your modules will break and refuse to work. All right. I don't know if these guys are going to stop firing or not, so we're just going to go ahead and get rid of those. It looks like they actually had some friendly fire incidents too, so good job, guys. Let's spawn another group here. Now, toggle NVGs. So by default, these guys in particular do not have NVGs. So we're going to select toggle NVGs, drop it on the group leader, it doesn't really matter. And then you want enabled, and then toggle target. You can select it for blue 4, for example. So in theory, it should add it to all blue 4, but in this case, we're just going to do selected group. Now they all have night vision. So you also have an ungarrison group, which is the opposite of the garrison module. So I'm not going to show that. Next, we have ace captive. So in this case, I'm going to spawn a single soldier. We have capture, or toggle captive rather, and they'll be captured like that, basically handcuffed. It's a toggle, so once you drop it on there again, it will, untoggle it. It'll be back to normal. Same goes for the surrender. It's just a slightly different animation. Now you'll notice when you do this, their icon turns purple or pink, or whatever color if you're colorblind. I might be colorblind, but anyways, they're considered a civilian at that point. So you could capture a unit or toggle a captured unit and place it in with enemies in a building, for example, and they won't shoot at them until they are rescued or something like that. Next is ace medical. I'm going to skip assigned medic for now, as well as medical facility and medical vehicle. But if you want to toggle unconscious somebody, this works for players as well. You can do this to AI and players. I don't recommend it. And as you can see there, it did not work on this AI for whatever reason. Welcome to Arma Zeus. Ace repair is pretty self-explanatory. It goes for vehicles. So we're going to skip that. Ace utility is for vehicles as well. I do not have information on these, so if you are part of the Rough Rider group, I would reach out to somebody else. AI. Now, AI is part of the Zeus enhanced mod that we're currently using at the time of this recording. We have ambient animations, which I will give you an example of. We will do watch, and then combat ready or not basically means if it's set to no, they should in theory never leave their animation. If they're yes and they detect like enemy forces or something, they will stop their animation and do their regular behaviors. So I set it to watch, which now he's going to just look around and do his thing, be on watch. We also have Ambient Flyby. So Ambient Flyby is pretty self-explanatory, but I'll give you an example. So we're going to do a Thunderbolt because why not? We're going to do Follow Terrain, and we're going to do Haul and Butt here. So you select the options you want here, and then they will spawn quite a far distance away. By default, they're set to, or actually all the time, they're set to civilian, and I believe that's so they don't get shot down. They're supposed to be ambient after all. So here in a moment, those A-10s will come into view. It looks like they're already coming into view now. They're in the distance, and they will fly over. So this is a good way to simulate, enemy forces moving in, friendlies, or whatever reason you'd want an ambient flyby. Pretty cool. Especially in that formation. Okay, so that was ambient flyby. Chatter, if you hit on this, and then you type whatever you want, that AI will say what you want in chat on side channel. So keep that in mind for intel reasons. Convoy Parameters is an interesting module. So we're going to go ahead and go to Armor here. And I guess we'll just do a... All right, we're going to do this manually. We're going to set up a couple of dingoes here. Now, when setting up a convoy, I recommend doing it this way. Everybody's got their own opinion, but I'm going to select the first unit, hit File or Column, Limited, and hit Safe and OK. Then Control, drag them into convoy position. Now, the convoy parameters is like a backup if this just by default doesn't work. In theory, you could just send this off and it'll do a convoy in most cases, but just in case, you can drop this module on there. You could set the separation and then the speed limit if you want, and then stay on road, yes. Nothing will happen, that's normal, and then you just give them a waypoint. So they should start moving and following those guidelines. And just like that, you have a convoy. So for the sake of making sure this works, we're going to watch it for a moment. Looks pretty good to me. Nice speed, decent separation. Looks good. Okay, now fly height. We will not display, or we will not give an example of here, but basically you would apply this to an aircraft, whether that's a helicopter or plane, and it will set its flight height. Garrison Group is similar to the AI from before. It's just a different mod that allows it. Global AI skill. If you're working with the Rough Riders, we recommend not using this module, but you can modify the global skill this way, which can be useful in some situations. Patrol area, I will give you an example of. So we're going to set a patrol radius of 100. So this module, what it will do is randomly generate a bunch of waypoints that they will patrol. Now, what if you want the patrol to do exactly what you want, right? So what we're going to do is hold Control and quickly select the route we want. And then on the last one, we're going to hold Alt as well. And that should create a cycle waypoint for you. I would drag it to your last waypoint or wherever you want them to repeat. And then they should repeat all that. gotta set them to relax so they look like they're patrolling. There we go. Now that group will do an exact patrol in this area. All right, back to modules. We have sit on chair, which, you know, if you really want to do that, you can. And it gives them a chair too, which is kind of hilarious if you ask me. We got suicide bomber, which will not demonstrate here. Garrison Group. So the reason why he popped out of his chair is because he had an ambient animation. So keep that in mind. Next, we have animals. These are pretty self-explanatory. We got butterflies, we got goats, we got poultry, seagulls, and sheep. Now, something I want to bring to somebody's attention, or you guys' attention, rather. Let's say you have a patrol, right? Let's go with this one. And there's players over here, but they're not seeing them. You could try and get their attention by having seagulls fly up, as in if like the enemy spooked them, and that might help your players realize, oh, there's a patrol there. So keep that in mind. Use sparingly, of course, but kind of a cool little idea for you. Next, we have audio. We never use these. They have their purposes. There's all different kinds of music. In the Rough Rider server, we do not use this, so do not use it. Play radio message you could use, and you can assign to groups, players, and sides. Once again, that's very rarely used, if ever. And then sounds will lag out your game, as you can see here, cause it to freeze. There's an okay amount of sound options here. They don't work very well. I would argue most of them don't work, but like the air raid siren, which you can't hear right now, but the air raid siren's good for like if the base is under attack or something like that. So use them sparingly again. Buildings, we have configured doors, damage buildings, and toggle lamps. So what we're going to do is actually jump down the list here to environment real quick, and we're going to skip the time. We're going to go to night. Now, with the toggle lamps module, if you hit this in a radius that you set, it will set them to on or off and whether or not to repair them. So we're going to set state to off. All the lights just went out. Kind of cool if you're simulating like an EMP or something of that nature, or an ambush. Now, configure doors. Let's see, does this building have a door? It does not. Let's find a door, an actual door. Okay. Well, we might not be able to find a door, but here we go. Here's a door. If you drop this here, it will create little icons, right? If you click on them, you can open them or lock them. It's a little interesting. But from what I can tell, you can't get rid of this, so be careful with this mod, or with this module rather. You can damage buildings. You can select, here, let's get that out of the way. Damage buildings, you can select a radius or nearest. You can select the damage state. And then destruction effects. Look at that. It's kind of cool. Now, let's move on to chem lights. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here, but we got all different kinds. We got highlight blue in various colors, ultra high orange, and then we just have regular chem lights as well, vanilla chem lights, which are not as bright as you can see. So that's chem lights. Moving on to development tools. We're actually not going to cover any of these, but if you want to play with these, you can. Export to mission SQF is useful for compositions that you've made and maybe you want to use later in the mission. So if you want me to do a video on that, we can later. Effects is actually really cool. This is part of the Zeus enhanced mod. We have fires now, which we didn't have before, which is really, really nice. So you can simulate actual fires, which is really cool. IR grenades have always been there. They show up in night vision, but not in normal. We have a light source, which is just a light. So if you're just trying to light something for whatever reason, you can do that. Which actually, we're going to do that right here. Yes. Smoke pillars, we can select different kinds of smokes. So that's good for setting up vehicles that are damaged, for example. Tracers simulates fire, and you can actually hear gunfire too, which is kind of cool if you want to simulate like a gunfight nearby or something. It is random, so keep that in mind. Environment. So we skipped to this earlier to change the time. We have a change weather module, which happens instantly, so keep that in mind. Same goes for the weather module. We have earthquakes, which can damage buildings or just rumble the screen. We have post-processing effects, which there's a very limited amount, but we don't recommend using those. We have a date set as well as a time, which is useful. And if you don't know your military time, which I struggle with too, you can use this slider to help set the time. Skip time by military time. Time acceleration, so 1 times normal speed or 60 as a maximum. So your full day will be in 24 minutes if you do that.